Look, I don't care what I have to do or how long it takes. I want Dragons in the MCU, and I want it now! Hey guys, it's Daniel here, finally back with some movie reviews. And not only that, I'm also here to review the newest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which also introduces a brand new hero into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi, the Legend of the Ten Rings, my god that's a mouthful, follows a new superhero named, of course, Shang-Chi, who is living a normal life, like working as a waiter at the hotel, having a normal life with his best friend Katie and all that, and things are lovely for now. But what Shang-Chi is hiding is that he actually used to be a young warrior working for his father, who was actually the leader of a group of terrorists known as the Ten Rings. But Shang-Chi left the family after the death of his mother and decided to live a normal life. But his father eventually wants him to come back because his father is up to something fishy. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what he's doing, but he's up to no good. So Shang-Chi goes off to meet his father with his best friend Katie again, and later joined by his sister to find out what plans his father is up to and to save the world from the evil of the Ten Rings. Now, along with how my busy schedule, well, not really a schedule, just some busy stuff at school, taking over my YouTube channel, where to the point I'm not making as many videos as much, I've not managed to keep up with a lot of stuff that came out earlier this year, including some films and TV shows that came out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have watched WandaVision, I have watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as you know, and I have watched Loki, which I still plan to make a video about that. I haven't got through What If yet. I've seen Black Widow, but I've also got through What If yet, which I also plan to make videos about. And I still have yet to see The Eternals. So, I'm glad to be back talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe again. But with a new change of pace, because we're following a new superhero, Shang-Chi. I don't know much about the character. I can't remember. I don't recall if he's like in the original source material, like he had a comic or something, or if this is just a new character. There's a possibility he might be one of the comics. Well, I think he has to be, so he probably has. But I was interested to see what a new superhero would be like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And judging by the source material and the promotion for the film, it definitely seems like it's taking a more different tone. Although, come to think of it, I haven't exactly watched the trailers. Well, I think I saw maybe I can't remember if I saw it. I don't think I saw the trailer, so I watched this movie on Disney Plus completely blind without watching trailers. And after seeing the movie, what do I think of it? It was what I thought it was going to be. It's not the best MCU movie, not something excellent, but it is a good film, an enjoyable film, and a great change of pace from the regular MCU, and a new way to entertain us. First praise I must give this movie is Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. Wow! Talk about a new addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and pulling it off in flying colours. This guy does a fantastic job playing the character of Shang-Chi, making me end up rooting for him and making me introduced to him and actually getting engaged with him, because again, I never knew about this character until this movie was announced. So I wanted to see how good this character was going to be as a new addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he is a new addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a good way, because he came off as a likeable, charming, awesome, funny, and just downright awesome character that I can really root for, because not only is his writing done well, his action fighting done well, like he's so awesome, and his humour, but all of that is connected to Simu Liu's acting in this movie. Now, I don't know much about the Simu Liu, so I haven't seen him in anything else, so I don't know how he's good outside this movie. But I'm pretty sure he's going to get more work after this movie, because he was a fantastic job as Shang-Chi. At first, I didn't want him to like mess up this performance, because this is pretty new and I didn't know much about it. And I want to let you know, Simu Liu, you didn't. In fact, you've passed my expectations, and I will admit, he was the one thing that kept me engaged in the movie because of his character is so likable, charming, and I like the fact that he comes off with very moral decisions and he says some very rightful things to his father about what's right and what's wrong, and I really loved his character. He's the one thing that kept me engaged throughout the movie. And plus, again, Simu Liu's acting is fantastic. And I cannot wait to see what his character will later turn out to be in future MCU movies. I cannot wait to see him. The visuals in this movie were splendid. Well, most of them. Because some of the visual effects, yeah, I'll get to that later. But the visual effects in this movie were fantastic. Especially on the rings on Shang-Chi's father's arms, which was excellent. It was well done. The fight scenes, like whether it was electric or water, like the water in this film, like when it's flying around in one scene, wow, the visual effects team definitely knew how to make that water glisten like that. And going head with the visuals is the action sequences. I mean, half of the action sequences in the movie were great. They were awesome, especially the climax of the movie, but to be honest, some of the action scenes in the movie kind of felt like fluff to me. I mean, it's not bad action. I like the action. It's just not as intense as some other action in the MCU I've seen so far. And since you heard me talk about Simu Liu's acting as Shang-Chi, what about the other characters? Well, his sister was a bit interesting, although I'll talk about her later. His aunt, wow, she is fantastic in the movie because I can definitely see her fighting for her people against the enemies, and I love the way that she talks to the characters when they meet her later on, making her come off as a likable aunt, as a good teacher. We don't see her a lot, but the times we do see her, she is fantastic. And the one character that was very funny throughout the movie is Aquamarina. I'll put her name right here, as Katie. This woman had me cracking up so many times in this movie. I mean, she comes off a quick wit, very funny banter between her and Shang-Chi. Like, of course, you cannot get the Shang-Sean line out of your head. Like, you really can't, because she is priceless in that. On the other hand, I will admit that she does get less funny as she goes along. I mean, at the start, she was making me laugh consistently. In the middle, she made me chuckle now and again, and then towards the end, she barely made me giggle. But she is a fun character. She's kind of like the Michael Pena from Ant-Man in this movie. And then we have our villain, Shang-Chi's father. Wow, he is a very interesting villain. He's one of the most recent villains that was very interesting in my opinion, because not only is he a huge threat, he has good magic and all that coming off, but he also has a fantastic backstory that made us kind of understand where he's coming from. He came off as a sympathetic character, but he learns that there are a few errors of his ways and that doing this will not fix the past. In fact, even Shang-Chi says it best later on in the movie, like, this won't fix anything. In fact, your past will end up haunting you even more if you do this aspect. And it made for a very awesome hero-villain rivalry. I mean, to see a character go up against a father, kind of like the Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader effect, although definitely not as awesome, but it was very interesting seeing their own ideologies about how to do things, whether it was right or whether it was wrong, and Shang-Chi's father was a very interesting villain. In fact, I think, like, Shang-Chi and his father, they are probably the two best characters. They are very interesting and likable, and very sympathetic in their backstory. Although his father is excellent, I really have to give it up to Shang-Chi's mother. She was really awesome. Now, we don't see her that much. In fact, some of the stuff all the scenes we see her in aren't really relevant to the present story we are right now. But when we can see her, she is amazing. She's a lovable, caring mother who will do anything to protect her family and children. I can totally understand why her father would fight for her. It maybe kind of go on his side a little bit, but some of the stuff that he does, maybe there. But I loved her mother, and honestly, I wish she had like a bigger role in this movie because she was fantastic. And the climax of the movie was very fun. It was intense, it was awesome, that's when the visuals are at their most grating, and the climax introduces something that I thought would never appear in an MCU movie, but they introduce it, and my god, this aspect is awesome. It was visually appealing, it was cool to look at, and it's just so mind-blowing that I will not spoil it in this video. You'll have to go see the movie for yourself to find out what this aspect is in the climax, but my god, I thought I would never see this part in an MCU movie, or in the MCU in general, but they introduced it in this movie, and wow. Well done, Shang-Chi. Well done. This was awesome. Although, it does kind of make the climax go on a bit too long, and now, with that said, let's go on to the problems I have with this film. The first and biggest issue I had with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is that the movie truly dropped the ball when it came to its comedy aspect. Now, while I did mention earlier that I did laugh at some jokes, I will admit that the more the film goes on, the less funny it becomes. Because like I said, at the beginning I was laughing consistently. In the middle, I chuckled now and again, and then towards the end, I barely made a giggle. I mean, the ending is not supposed to have all the jokes, but it still tries to throw a few cracks now and again, and it just didn't land for me. It didn't crack in a little hole that most of the jokes in the beginning did. I think, as a matter of fact, I think the first half of the movie is its stronger point. I mean, not to say that the second half was bad, it was good, it just didn't live up to the same quality as the first half did. And I will admit that a lot of the comedy that falls flat is due to the characters. And speaking of the characters, while I did mention earlier that I did enjoy most of them, I will admit that the characters that I did like don't have all the best qualities that they give to them, because they do have problems themselves, whether it would be lacking in development, being pretty annoying, not having as many conversations as I would, because I would have loved to see more relationship with these characters, and some of them have absolutely nothing to do. Like, for example, Shang-Chi's sister. She is an interesting character, but she doesn't really have much big development in this movie. Interesting character, and I would have loved to see a more backstory with her character, describing what she's been like throughout the years, like get into more detail, and plus I wanted to see more interactions between her and Shang-Chi, because towards the end of the movie you're supposed to buy that these two have gone closer as siblings and they rekindle their relationship that was very messed up in the past, but I didn't feel anything because they barely shared any scenes together, and the scenes that they shared together can be summed up in like 5 to 10 seconds, and that's about it. Like, if you combine all their interactions, they can make up a 3-minute video. Seriously, they interact like for 3 minutes in the whole movie. Like, if you combine all the times they interact for 3 minutes in the whole movie. There is a scene where Katie and Shang-Chi are talking to each other in the dark, and Shang-Chi is revealing his secrets to Katie, and honestly, while that scene was well developed, Katie shouldn't have been the one in this scene. It should have been his sister, because I would have, if they showed that scene with him and his sister, I would have bought their whole sacrificial relationship towards the end. Like, they're all acting like, no, I can't lose you again. 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 I mean, how am I supposed to buy that they feel like bonded with each other if they barely share any scenes together? Seriously. And like I said, some of the characters come off as annoying and have absolutely nothing to do, and in my opinion don't need to be in the film at all. One victim is Katie. Now, I do like this character. She comes off as very funny and entertaining and witty, but at the same time, she also comes off as she also can get very annoying, pointless, unhelpful, and just plain right, like, just didn't come off as fun. I mean, in the first half, she was funny, but later on, she just doesn't really contribute much to the story, because she really has nothing to do in this film. What's one thing that she does in this movie that you would redeem part of the story, besides the one thing that she does at the end, which was good, but still only one thing? Nothing. She does nothing. And like I said, the thing that she does at the end, while cool, it's only just one thing. If she contributed more to the end and more in the beginning, she would have like come off as more awesome. But for most of the movie, besides that one thing, she just comes off as a very she's just mainly relegated to mere comic relief psychic status. Really? But even more of a disappointment is this one character that shows up later on in the movie. I won't say what or who the character is, but it's a character that showed up in an earlier MCU project. And my god, I don't know if this character was testing my patience, but it sure as hell felt like it. Because I was looking forward to seeing what persuasive purpose this character was going to have, what kind of sacrificial, important role this character would be. And the role that he plays in this movie is absolutely nothing! Seriously! Like, he does absolutely nothing in this movie. I don't even know what his purpose was in this film. Like, why was he in the movie at all? He did not need to be in the movie at all. It's just a little quick, like, it almost felt like he's here for fan service. Like, oh, remember this character from this film? Oh, you're gonna like him even more because he's in this movie. Ah! Really? Just because you bring a character in the past movie and you brought him in this movie does not mean I'm going to automatically like him. If you're going to bring a character that was from a past movie and make him a role in this movie, then at least give him a more important role instead of just a mere comic relief wormy nothing. Like he almost felt like he was invisible to the eye, and not only that, but he would go out of his way to be as unhelpful as possible. Like, when I heard that this character was going to be in the movie, like, when I heard this actor was going to be in the movie, I was so excited because I felt like, wait, maybe this actor is going to play, like, a real version of who this character was in that past movie, but this is the same character, and it just makes him come off as very annoying, unhelpful, and, more importantly, completely pointless. He's pointless to the story. Like, this character had no real purpose. He really didn't. And like I mentioned earlier, while the climax is fun for the most part, it did go on a bit too long and it wasn't as epic as I thought it would be. I mean, the ending is epic. It's so epic because it's something I've never seen in an MCU movie. But I did mention that the film also adds another threat into the climax. And while that threat is so epic and unreal for an MCU project, I also felt like it kind of dragged the climax on a bit. Like, oh, the climax is closing, but it needs to be longer because that's the point of MCU climaxes. They need to be very long and all that. So let's just add this new threat so that you'll be, oh, that's better. That's better. We did it. No, you didn't. That's crazy. Honestly, I felt like that could have stayed like for a sequel or something. In fact, I also felt like this movie did have some pointless parts in the film and didn't. Well, not pointless, but just stuff that didn't really need to be in the movie. And this film is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I tell you, if you trimmed out some of the parts, like that threat in the climax, some of the supporting characters like Katie, actually keep Katie in, but make her a bigger part, and leave that old character out, and leave like that wrestling match out. If you left some of that stuff out, you could have gotten this film close to 1 hour and 45 minutes, and it would have been an even better film. It did not need to be over 2 hours. And the last issue I have with this movie is actually the amount of CGI. Now, while I did mention earlier that most of the CGI was good, like, the visual effects were fantastic, I felt like the backgrounds looked a bit off. I watched this movie on Disney Plus on the IMAX part, so maybe the original version and not the IMAX version looked a bit better, but from what I've seen, the backgrounds were a bit, like, because some of it felt like you were just going on like a virtual reality roller coaster ride, and it just didn't work that much for me. But besides those problems, I still thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Sure, it had like some very annoying parts and and I felt like the movie could have like trimmed out some of the parts, and the backgrounds were a bit weak. I still thoroughly enjoyed the film. It had some excellent visuals in the foreground, some of best action scenes, a really unreal thing that I saw at the end of the movie, and Simu Liu is fantastic as Shang-Chi. I cannot wait to see more of this character later on in the MCU, see where his life will end up, especially after the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene, and I will admit, and I did enjoy the movie. It's just a lot of the movie kind of really annoyed me. So, honestly, I don't know what to give. What should I give this movie? I'll give it a 3-star and a quarter of a star out of 5. That's what I'll give it. Because while it's not fantastic, I still think it's a good effort.